You're telling your dad not another slave movie. Like really, you think everything? That's my problem. Is you at your level, at Will Smith's level, his daughter believes that there's nothing that is harming that is still continuously harming the black community right now.
And of course,
that became of a result of slavery, which also followed by Jim Crow laws, racism, and that's because of their view of us being inferior. So,
hey, welcome back to Black Press. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Now let's get to it. What's going on, everybody? I'm your boy, Mr. Defined.
And I'm your girl, Trish.
And we are Black Press. So, I want to get into this thing that your favorite actor.
My favorite actor.
Oh no, I just threw that in there. Okay. He was at one point.
I still like him.
At one point, I really liked him, and I still like him, but I can't get past that slap.
Yeah, he had a fall from grace. So.
I can't get past the slap because as somebody that's been in heated situations, stressful situations, angry situations, Trump situations, you still there's something in you that knows what exactly what's going on, and I can't believe that a man that can get into characters and play those roles so well is not able to control himself and his emotions and how he acts.
Yeah.
So I think every step that Will Smith took towards Chris Rock, he knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah, I believe he planned it. I believe he understood in his mind right before he slapped Chris Rock that if he did it, he was going to maybe take some time and maybe a little bit of repercussions, but he would be back on grace steps.
But he didn't. I think he didn't think it would go like how it went. Because
how did it go? It went exactly how he wanted it to go. He still got a. Will Smith still has a new movie premiering right now.
He probably thought that since Chris Rock was up there talking about his wife and stuff like that, she was suffering from that alopecia, that health crisis. So he probably thought a whole bunch of people was going to side with him because
they did.
People mostly side with you when you have like a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, and they did side with him.
Mental issues. A lot of people are against him.
No, there's a lot of people in the industry were still with him.
Yeah, they talk to him, post him down, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but still, he did lose like a lot of like
as he should
and stuff like that.
But he still has a movie premiering. Like the movie that he had done or was working on did not get pulled.
Yeah, that's
my point. Is he knew it, and as a calculated, and I believe he's calculated too. As a calculated, successful black man, we know that we have to think about the things that we do before, during, and after we do them. And I believe that he consciously knew. He didn't snap. No, he was like, I'm going to take this moment to walk up here and slap him because it's going to make it's going to make her feel like I'm doing this for her. But at the same time, it wasn't. It was him choosing to disgrace another man for his own selfish interest, which was whatever going on with him, between him and Jada. Yeah. So anything was going on between him and Jada, he believed that him slapping Chris Rock would help that situation, and he was willing to sacrifice his career, even though he probably knew he was going to be able to get over it, and he was willing to sacrifice the manhood, the strength, the everything. That word is just going out of my head, but he was willing to sacrifice Chris Rock's friendship, his legacy, integrity, legacy. And he was willing to do all that for that moment of maybe this would help. I believe that slap was a maybe this would help.
It's that, and it's more to it because he, in a sense, was emasculating him as a man and a protector.
Emasculation. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
As a man and a protector of his wife, so he had to go and defend his and her honor. So,
but it wasn't. He knew it. He knew Chris Rock was just telling the joke, and then.
But he has a tendency to take things very far, and some of his jokes aren't funny.
Have you? I've heard some of Will Smith's jokes about other people that weren't funny.
Yeah.
That were harmful, but it's okay as long as I do it to you. Mm-hmm. It's just not okay if you do it to me. Yeah. And there's a lot of us. That's a whole nother subject. Look, I cannot. We cannot act one way and expect others to treat us a different way. Mm-hmm. If you gonna be 10 toes down for the ratchet life, if you're gonna be 10 toes down for thug life, if you're gonna be 10 toes down for the streets, then play that role the whole way through. If not,
it's a role. Roles end. You don't have to sit.
I'm saying don't stay in that role when it benefits you, and then change roles when you want to get when that no longer benefits you. Don't say I'm gonna live my best life and I'm gonna do what I gotta do to make my ends meet, but then blame somebody else like the prosecutor for charging you with the things that you did as you were doing what you had to do to make your ends meet. If you down for that, if you down for the action, you down for the consequences, or you're not down for either one of them, you're just faking it. You're faking it and hope you don't get caught. But dang, see, well, I ain't even sold the other part that I really wanted to talk about. Anyway, Will Smith has a new movie out. Just came out, and it's called Emancipation. Where Will Smith plays a slave that has just found out that, from my understanding, I haven't seen it yet, but I watched what he talked about it. What, out of his words, he says that this is the point where the Emancipation Proclamation has been passed, and that the slaves in the South recognized that they were quote unquote free, but the masters wasn't letting them be free, wasn't giving them their freedom, and that pushed them to try to emancipate themselves by fleeing towards the Union Army. Mm-hmm. A little bit of historical context: Abraham Lincoln knew that when he passed the Emancipation Proclamation, because the Emancipation Proclamation only freed the slaves, only quote unquote freed the slaves that were in the Confederate States. Mm-hmm. Therefore, at least 4 of the states that were Union states that still held slaves were still protected under slavery. They were not that it didn't emancipate their slaves. Yeah. So therefore, the Emancipation Proclamation actually did nothing at the time, because those states that were Union states still got to keep their slaves, and those states that were Confederate states didn't care anyway, and they were not going to free their slaves. But the Emancipation Proclamation still held something important because of the perception that it put out. Yeah. So that he was going to do something, but that Lincoln was going to do something, but he also did not recognize the Confederate States as an actual separate country, so they could come back if they wanted. But anyway, so I said all that to say, actually, I didn't say all that to say nothing. I just want to show how smart I was. No.
A whole history lesson.
But so the issue I bring up is, as Will Smith is talking on the Daily Show, on the Trevor Noah show, he mentions about something that his daughter says about the movie, before he goes to start making the movie. And I'm gonna play it, and then we'll talk about it after.
And in Baton Rouge is where Lincoln's army was from this place in Louisiana. So it's about that period where the slaves were free, but they weren't being freed. So it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. And so my daughter asked me, she's like, "Daddy, do we really need another slave movie?" When I was thinking about it, and I said, "Baby, I promise you, I wouldn't make a slave movie. This is a freedom movie,
Oh wow!
It is interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
It is interesting that you say that because the story. One of my favorite lines in the movie is when. I think it's one of the. He's leading one of the battalions, and he talks to your character, right? So he's like a general commando, and he says to your character, he says, "I was born free." And he says, "We're allowed to own houses. We're allowed to do this. We're allowed." And your character says to him,
if someone must allow you to do it, are you really free?
Right.
So, the issue that I want to talk about, that I think for the sake of trying to make it just focus on the movie, Trevor Noah didn't hit that point. But why? I'm going to say why. I'm going to say, how do you put it? Blunt. That's how you put it, blunt. Why does your child think it's okay to say, why do we need another slave movie?
Because for a lot of young people, they don't. I think we're fast forwarded to the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the young people, they don't see slavery. They see slavery as something that happened all the way back then.
Mm-hmm.
It's closer to us than it is to them. So they're further from it. So when they hear of a slavery movie, it's mostly, and this is because this is what is being taught in school. So they teach them slavery was oppression. Slavery was you don't have a freedom of thought, voice, speech. You don't have any freedoms. You don't have anything. You're just a slave, chained together, come together on a big boat, side by side. Like slavery is depicted, and in an accurate sense, slavery is depicted as something that is demeaning to people of color. So it's a lot of feelings that are attached to that. So when you say another slavery movie, a lot of people don't like to expose some of those sensitive sides, because when you bring up, they're not bringing up movies with. They're only bringing up movies with black slaves. Do we see another movie with slaves of different color and stuff like that?
No. Well, no. But that's because black slaves were the most enslaved people.
Yeah.
And black slaves were the first time there was slavery for somebody just because they were a specific race.
Yeah, and if you think of it in a sense, like black people have so much more like value because they were turned into slaves. Because why focus just specifically on the black race? Because they were able to get more done with them.
I don't think so.
I think
it was.
So then why is it? Because a lot of black people, it was easier to manipulate them back then because a lot of black people sell each other out.
I wouldn't say a lot. So to say a lot would be saying that it you're saying now or then?
I think both, because there was some tribes that were against each other's, and they turned over that tribe. So that kind of weakened the standpoint, because if you turn over your enemy, then you become a foe to whoever.
Yeah, that wasn't as much as a portion as we'd like to think it is, though. And also,
Yeah,
that was
because they were selling each other.
oh my gosh, this is
It's a
they were selling a lot. They were selling other slaves, but they were selling other slaves, other black people of different tribes. But that was on the western coast. The entire continent of Africa was taken over by Europe.
Yeah.
So to even mention that is to say that everything else, it's saying that everything else wasn't happening, or everything else that wasn't as important. But the most important thing was that blacks were selling blacks.
No, it's just a different focal point. Not saying that, of course, Europeans were going around taking over, because they came and took over from the Indians. It wasn't
and killed most of them just by disease alone.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't just black people, but black people were the only ones that most likely were enslaved.
No, they were slaves centuries before blacks were enslaved. But blacks were the only ones that were literally enslaved primarily
on
for
the monetary value is what
their
race.
Yeah.
As
viewed as inferior. Value. Everybody that was a slave had a monetary value. Everybody was sold, and it was because people were put into slavery. Not us, but before our time, but people were put into slavery just because their dad owed more money than he could pay back. Yeah. They were put into slavery out of a repayment for debt. Mm-hmm. They were put into slavery because one country took over another, but they weren't put into slavery because of the fact that they were a race that one race felt that they were inferior to. It was just because, hey, we went to war with you guys and you lost, we're taking your people. Mm-hmm. That's not the same thing that happened to us. Yeah. So to say that there was a portion of the African community that sold slaves doesn't say that that the entire black race were only selling each other out.
No, I'm not saying it's the entire black race. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that's something that happened. It's not a big focal point or a big picture, but that's something that happened, and that was a point of weakness.
It was, but it's not. It wasn't perpetuated to the point. Okay, they sold black people for monetary value or value that they could receive, but at the same time, they did not create an entire industry that profited off of slavery. They were able to. They sold those that from other groups, and what do they call? I just use them.
The nations.
Different tribes. Mm-hmm. But once they sold that person, that was it. That was all they was getting. Mm-hmm. But the plantations were perpetuating slavery after slavery after slavery through babies being born. So they had an entire industry.
That's after they took them from their motherland.
I know, but they were also they were doing that, but it wasn't like they was doing it by themselves. They were receiving weapons from the Europeans in order to harvest, pretty much harvest Africans from a different tribe, but they were doing it in form of a payment, not an entire global market. So, and then to bring it back to what we were saying about his child saying not another slave moving, as if everything that happened through slavery has been fixed. That's the issue that I have. Not another slave movie, because you and your mom and your grandmother are sitting at this thing called Red Table Talk, where you guys are talking about issues, but you're not talking about issues as if there are issues in our community that still haven't been fixed. You're telling your dad not another slave movie. Like, really? You think everything. That's my problem. Is you at your level, at Will Smith's level, his daughter believes that there's nothing that is harming that is still continuously harming the black community right now.
And of course,
that became of a result of slavery, which also followed by Jim Crow laws, racism, and that's because of their view of us being inferior. So yes, until no one views us being inferior, yes, there will be another slave movie. There should be another slave movie.
And of course, because a lot of people's minds are still enslaved. Like, they just passed the lynch law.
Yes. The Emmett Till. Mm-hmm. The Emmett Till anti-lynching law in 2022. Mm-hmm. That's why.
This year.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So I and that's what I'm saying. I understand what slavery means.
But you said it as if you did. It's too hard to talk about, so let's not make another movie.
I'm not saying that's how I feel. I'm saying that's how these young people feel. They feel like slavery was so long ago because they are in a different phase in life. They are far more advanced than us, kind of, because their minds are made like a little bit different.
That's what it made the movie seem like.
Still kind of.
It made the movie seem like Emmett Till, and I know what I've learned from history, but that part of the movie, because we just watched it yesterday. That part kind of unnerved me but when you say it like that, he did act as if the generation before him was not the environment that he was living in at the time in that movie, because it made it seem like he actually did whistle at her. But history says that his mother said he had the speech impediment that would cause him to whistle, so it might not have been intentionally whistling at her.
Yeah.
So that I don't know. I know the history I've learned, and I see what the movie said, where he was like straightforward, coming on to her.
Yeah, they actually they put that in the movie to make it seem like, and I don't know if it's accurate or because none of us know, none of us was there, but we don't know how that played out, but how the movie made it seem, and then he had the picture. And then he showed them.
Yeah.
And then when she was in court, she didn't have any red lipstick on. Of course, he was saying, "Oh, like in a childlike mind, oh, you look like." That's
but it also could have been a way of saying, even if he did talk to her like that, and he whistled at her, that. They could have been playing that part to say that even if he did talk to her and say she looks like a movie star, open up a picture and see a white woman movie star, and then come out of the store and whistle at her, that still does not constitute him being dragged and murdered and lynched the way he was.
Definitely not.
So I don't know if they just wanted to play off what history says, or if they wanted to just put that forward as to say, even if he did whistle at her, that does not constitute him being lynched.
Yeah.
But all of that being said, that's even more of a reason. I don't think Will Smith calculated that part. They didn't calculate that part, and I still think we need to highlight that part. And I hope you share this video, because you don't make a movie about the emancipation of slavery and then say that your own child thinks there shouldn't be another slave movie. In the same month, in the same 30-day period that Emmett Till's movie comes out. Like, dude, are you really paying attention to what's going on in the world? Are you just that focused on what's in your line of sight? That's why he slapped Chris Rock.
But that's exactly why a lot of people are unaware of like what's going on in the world, because everybody is in their own world. They're they're in this world and of this world. They're not thinking outside of their own box.
But should he not have some kind of extra level of responsibility, knowing that he's a role model and knowing that he's in front of people's faces, and to say something, to slap Chris Rock the way he did, knowing that it was going to have the effect that it did on our community. You should know that, and I believe he knows that. And like you were saying, we have what's in our view and in our life. But if you can say in this video that you can understand that a movie is about freedom, then you understood. This is less than a year later. You understood fully well what you were doing when you went to slap that man.
Of course.
You can't talk about exactly. You can't say that you made a movie about freedom and in the same year you went up there and slapped somebody, a black man. That's the issue, and that is also that validates with the point that you made. We will enslave somebody else for our own satisfaction because it benefits us, and we don't really care how it hurts anything else. That's what he did.
Because it doesn't affect
you. Went up there and slapped Chris Rock on live television in front of the entire world, and that was because of how you felt and how you believe your wife felt.
People are very selfish nowadays. They're out for self and they only think about themselves. Because if it doesn't go to how they feel or how if it doesn't please them or make them feel good, it's not something they're interested in.
And you know what? Before I saw this video, I did have some empathy for Will Smith because I had empathy for him because I can understand how much stress, how much strife and pain and emotional damage can cause or can be caused to you by a relationship where, as the way she does things, Jada Pinkett Smith does things, is totally in disregard for how it may affect him. But I did feel that way until you come out here on stage and you literally say that your daughter said, "Not another slave movie," and instead of you correcting that part, you said, "This is a movie about freedom." No, correct her part first. Slavery and the effects of slavery have not completely gone away. Yeah. Correct that part first. Then say this is a movie about freedom. But correct your daughter, your flesh and blood, the one that you, when you die, is going to continue in the vision that you gave to her. Correct that first. Let her understand that, yeah, you are privileged because I have put in the work and I have, by the grace of God, been successful. But the entire world in itself has not completely healed from slavery and apartheid and racism, Jim Crow laws, voter rights suppression, beatings, dogs, water hoses. The entire world has not healed from what you think is just another slave movie.
It's not relevant to them. So,
it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to them. So,
and then as a parent, I can still play devil advocate on both sides because even as a parent, it's hard to get our kids to sit down and watch a whole civil rights movie.
They don't be interested in that.
They don't.
But sit down and watch Avengers or something like that.
Or YouTube all day. Hey, shout out to YouTube. Thanks YouTube for supporting our channel. Like, share, comment, subscribe, people. What do you think about Will Smith? What do you think about the mentality of our community? What do you think about his slap? Do you think I'm bringing up a good point about the fact that he's able to go up and slap a black man on live television, and then sit down less than a year later and say that his own daughter says not another slave movie? Are we perpetuating the very same things that was perpetuated against us through the Western African community of capturing and enslaving African Americans or Africans? Is there a correlation, or I'm just freaking stupid and I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head? It's possible. I've been known only by myself to say things that are ludicrous. Because if myself tells me it's ludicrous, I don't actually say it out loud. But, comment, please. Let us know what you feel.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.